Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is Superman, issue number 261, dated February 1973. So basically, I think I was 6 years old at the time. And if 6-year-old me bought this comic, I would probably be as disappointed with it as I am as a 57-year-old. This issue is quite the stinker, to be completely honest. I had read a few Supermans of this era. None of them were memorable, but some of them were actually pretty entertaining for what they were. And they were clearly dated even back then. This is just a really bad issue, although it is somewhat memorable because it does have this provocative cover of our villain, which is Star Sapphire. And Superman here is seen bowing to her and kissing her boots. And Star Sapphire is talking about how Superman is now going to be her slave. And we can see a bunch of onlookers looking at this, including Lois. Lois, fashionably dressed, looking really sexy there. We see Jimmy, and I think there's Perry White there. Nevertheless, but a lot of the problems with this book kind of explains a lot of the problems with DC at the time. So I'm going to go into this, and we see that the title of this is Slave of Star Sapphire. The splash page is just sort of kind of like an update on who Star Sapphire is. Because in reading this, it's clear that the characters care more about this person than, say, the comic book fans. I think she had only one other appearance. The costume's actually not too bad. The concept of the villain is actually pretty good. The problem with it is the execution. And most of the blame falls on Cary Bates. Cary Bates, longtime DC writer, he wrote a lot of their titles. He had a strange career in that he was a guy who worked for a long time, wrote probably thousands of comic book stories. He worked in television. He worked in the movies. He has all these credits, but he never did anything that was particularly memorable or special. Everything was kind of mediocre. So it's kind of weird. It's like you have this this great resume of work, but everything you've done has not amounted to very much in terms of just being memorable. Even by accident, he wasn't memorable. So, nevertheless, I put a lot of the blame on him. Some of the blame does fall on the art team, although indirectly. The art team did what it's supposed to do, and it drew a well-drawn comic. But there are a lot of problems with the way the philosophy of DC's artwork at the time. And this is Craig Swan and Murphy Anderson. Those are two longtime Superman artists. And the editor is Jewel Swartz. I don't know what happened, Jewel. I guess Jewel is like end of the month. This is good enough to publish. Fuck it, who cares? We got a stinker on our hands, but I got to cash. I got mouths to feed at home. So Jewel's kind of let the fans down with this dud. So we look at the splash page here. We're told that a woman named Carol Ferris, who I believe is Hal Jordan's girlfriend. She's a, quote, level-headed woman executive. There's a lot of underlying sexism in Cary Bates' work, and there's a little bit of it here, too. But however, it says that she can transform herself into the Star Sapphire whenever she gets the urge. So whenever she gets the urge to cosplay, she can do more than just cosplay. She can actually replicate, you know, superhuman powers. It doesn't quite explain how she got these powers. If you want to read a better version of this story, I would ask you to check out King-Size Avengers number 9. That's an issue where Jan Pym is possessed by Dr. Spectrum's power prism. And that is a much better version of what this story should have been. Because even though the villain is kind of a letdown, I don't think the concept of the villain itself is bad. It's just she's just kind of put in a bad situation by bad writers. Here she's kind of, so anyway, going back to her, she's very powerful. She has Superman in kind of a submissive pose here on his knees. So this lady can deliver the power. So we go into the story. We see Lois Lane, and there's a kind of a museum curator, and they're talking about this star sapphire, and apparently a collector in Coast City kind of put it out on loan, and kind of like it's traveling around various museums. So people who normally aren't in Coast City, they can see this. Lois makes this very odd remark, saying, you know, hey, the Green Lantern's there, and what a history that gem has. That makes no sense whatsoever. The fact that this gem was sitting in someone's collection while the Green Lantern was doing his thing in Coast City, I'm not seeing the connection there. I'm not seeing the reflective glory that Lois claims that this gem has. However, Lois is taken both by the gem and who the gem had been attached to, and that's Star Sapphire, the villain. Apparently, even though people in the DC universe didn't care, Lois cares a lot about this character, Star Sapphire, and this fight that she had with Green Lantern. And we see some kind of lazy storytelling where we're kind of treated to this like headline, skywriting, expository dialogue about this fight. Apparently this is from an issue of Green Lantern, an earlier issue. I got the feeling that Cary Bates was told to use this villain, and he was kind of being a little passive-aggressive. And this is because this is not really a good retelling of this character or setting them up. Although her origin kind of stunk, because she was basically fighting the Green Lantern so he would marry her. Because I guess Carol Ferris is kind of frustrated with Hal Jordan, and the fact that he won't pop the question. She's like the longtime girlfriend. She might be feeling a little frustrated here, and she's like making these marriage demands, which was always odd for me in the DC universe. I never understood the appeal, to be kind of honest. Same way we see Star Sapphire. She's a formidable opponent. Green Lantern had trouble with her. The curator shows Lois the outfit. They're kind of talking about, it's a replica of what the original woman wore, Carol Ferris, the Star Sapphire uniform. Lois kind of tries it on a little bit. It kind of fits. One of the things I didn't like, even though it is part of the story, is that Lois Lane and Carol Ferris look like twins. And that kind of threw me off. And again, one of the things I do have to say, looking at this drawing of Lois, Kurt Swan could draw some beautiful figures. I think the thing is that his type of style and what he was asked to do didn't make for great comic book imagery, but it was certainly well drawn. Okay, then we see Clark Kent. He's on a helicopter. And apparently, this is for a story, so he's kind of returning back to Metropolis. However, Clark uses his supervision because he kind of notices there's some type of ruckus going on below him. it turns out there's kind of a terrorist here. Um, he's an individual who's kind of known, Max Felden. He's a wanted criminal. He's kind of one of these nuisances, these criminal nuisances. And I think what happened is he got a little drunk, and he basically created a vest made of nitroglycerin. So he's basically doing what he wants. And if anyone dares stop him, obviously that would ignite the nitroglycerin. So he's being very careless, because there are hundreds of people who are endangered by this. And this guy's taking this very casual attitude toward it, kind of like being Otis the drunk in the old Andy Griffith show. Clark is looking at this. He's horrified by this. He knows he needs to stop this guy, but obviously he's in a helicopter, so changing into Superman here is not really possible. And then we get some really bad plot convenience here. It turns out that these helicopters have a, quote, safety device, where if the passenger ejects the button, and they give the passenger the option, it will vertically eject them from the helicopter, seats and all. So this is not a safety device under any measure. This is also really bad, lazy writing. So this is the excuse to kind of get Clark to be able to change into Superman. The other passengers of the helicopter, they notice this. They're mildly concerned. Apparently, cabin decompression doesn't bother them any. This is one of the reasons why DC was so behind with Marvel. So anyway, the passengers again they're blandly concerned. It turns out this, quote, safety device does have parachutes. So Clark and his sleeping passenger are gently coming down to Earth. Clark actually does wait until the seats land. So even though the guy's snoring rather loudly, Clark's kind of aware that he might still be caught changing into Superman. So after they land, the drunk guy, or whatever, the snoozing guy, he wakes up. He doesn't understand what's going on. This is kind of alleged humor. It's not funny. One of the things I noticed about this comic is that it seems a bit dated in terms of the mindset. I think this reads like if Cary Bates was ordered to do a Marvel-style comic, and he decided to imitate the Marvel of 1963 rather than 73. Because, I mean, this kind of humma, ring-a-ding-ding kind of 1960s feel to it. So anyway, we see the police are there, and obviously they're concerned about this individual. Superman shows up. The cops kind of debrief Superman about the situation. Superman goes into the establishment where Max Felden, the Mad Bomber, he's there getting drunk and endangering people. But back to the helicopter, which was not bothered by that decompression at all. Carol Ferris is looking in at the events going on, because the establishment where Max is, the helicopter is just circling it at this point for really kind of no good reason. However, Carol has like binoculars, so she's seeing closely. The establishment is called the Green Lantern. This obviously triggers something in Carol's brain. And I guess it was one of those things where it's like with Harry Osborn, where the criminal has amnesia, but something will trigger a memory to come up, and then there's sort of this cascade, and then they remember their evil alter ego. So this is what's going on with Carol here. Again, nicely drawn, but she looks so much like Lois. Superman's trying to figure out what to do, because he has to get Max out. He needs to isolate Max, but at the same time, he has to be careful about it because the guy, is set to explode. Superman destroys the establishment. So Superman could not think of a less destructive way than destroying this establishment with his super breath. Of course, all the wooding is just, it's just blown to bits here. So the place has been demolished. So they didn't have to worry about Max blowing up the place. Superman did it, or at least this poor homeowner, or actually business owner. Hopefully, he has good insurance. Superman is thinking to himself about the physics involved. It's not interesting. I think the editor thought he was being really smart, like a teacher. Carol Ferris is watching the events unfolding from the helicopter. However, she's seeing things differently. So she's sort of under a spell, and she sees Max as the Green Lantern. So this is probably some type of psychosomatic thing where her subconscious is projecting imagery that she wants to work out. So anyway, Superman is looking at drunk Max. Carol Ferris is looking at superhero Green Lantern. They both see Superman. So as the events unfolding, we see Max here, so we know this is Superman's narrative. He's daring Superman to do something about this, saying that, I'm not bluffing and you're not fast enough. Superman does believe him, and he kind of gambles on the speed thing. So he's gambling that he's faster than Max. And he throws his cape. The cape wraps itself around Max. So Superman won that battle. However, Carol, looking through her binoculars, which is the panel right next to it, and actually the panel's in the shape of binoculars. This is actually a pretty good device here, storytelling device, because you could see it's the Superman's point of view. This is Carol Ferris's point of view, and she sees Superman attacking Green Lantern. It turns out that Max is going into a seizure. He's suddenly realizing consequences. And however, Carol is also seeing Green Lantern going into a seizure. She also sees, both of them, Superman is going forward, but where this Superman kind of catches Max before he explodes, the Superman that Carol sees looks like he's going to attack Green Lantern. And it also looks like Green Lantern had some type of heart attack. Yeah, so there was a lot going on there. We see from Superman's point of view that Max is kind of like this little coward, but nevertheless, he was saved. He's crying like a little baby. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blow up all those people with this nitroglycerin I was so careless with. So he's going to jail for a long time. Carol Ferris sees the Green Lantern killed, and Superman, he's just kind of figuring out what to do with the body. Carol Ferris, she's upset. The helicopter decided it had enough. Superman's finished. We don't need to watch this. We'll go to the Pan-Man building. Carol Ferris is crying. She's vowing revenge. She's vowing revenge on Superman because she thinks that he killed her stalker victim, because she was stalking him and getting him to marry him. So she sort of still has this kind of control issue here. She's crying. She's saying justice must occur. I'll take care of it. She remembers that she was the star sapphire, and she knows that the gem, is in the Metropolis Museum. Go back to the museum. The curator notices that the gem is a fake. the one they have there. So somehow there was a switch. I think Lois grabbed the real gem. And I don't know what she was thinking, because that's a fucking felony. And nevertheless, the guy kind of gives Lois the benefit of the doubt. So, might have been a mistake there. That she took this incredibly valuable gem and kind of left this rhinestone here. Hey, white privilege, I guess. Nevertheless, he goes out to seek Lois Lane to kind of get back the real gem. We see Lois, she's entering the offices of the communications building. At this point, the Daily Planet and a TV station had merged. So Perry White wasn't the direct boss of Clark Kent and Lois, although he was still involved in the media empire, but he wasn't the top guy. There was another guy, Morgan Edge, that was above him. The office is stylishly designed. The figures are very well drawn. Clark looks like he's stooping a little, but no, this is, and Lois looks great. Yeah, Craig Swan, Kurt Swan could draw beautiful women. So anyway, Lois is talking about how whenever, Superman's there, Clark isn't. She's kind of like not getting that hint. But she's kind of being a little more persistent about it. Clark's kind of concerned about this. That was the big conceit, that Lois would find out that Clark is Superman, and how would Superman handle that. However, something, it looks like one of the mailroom interns, he's in a hurry, so he kind of interrupts the two. So that uncomfortable conversation that Clark was having from his point of view with Lois has kind of been interrupted. Lois drops her satchel. Lois is very protective of it, doesn't really want Clark touching it. She's talking about this big scoop she has about the star sapphire, and she wants to keep it to herself so Clark doesn't grab the story. Kind of a frenemy relationship there. Clark finds Lois's behavior odd. Lois walks away, really pretty though. Oh yeah, those big boots. Anyway, Clark is kind of being a nosy busybody. He uses his X-ray vision to kind of snoop on his friend, and he sees that it's the Star Sapphire uniform. And even though her appearance was not a big deal in DC Comics, she just appeared in that one Green Arrow. Within the DC universe, apparently this is a really big deal. The Star Sapphire. Everyone knows her by looking at that outfit. Clark is kind of thinking to himself that he might have a little fun with Lois. She feels that Lois has been kind of pranking him, so he wants to prank her. Kind of being a dick here. I think they were trying to kind of. I noticed in the newsroom during this time, they tried to create kind of like this workplace comedy with Clark and the staff, where Clark was apparently always going to be the butt of the joke, but since he had his superpowers, he knew in advance how to thwart the jokes and then turn it on the other cast members. I remember there was like Steve Lombardi, who was like the TV sports guy, and he was always trying to prank Clark. See, that was the problem with this story, is that it doesn't feel like a real battle when the two fight later on. It seems like a couple kids playing, a game of imagination, and they're sort of just making up powers as they're going along. I didn't get a sense that I was actually watching a real conflict. However, we go to Carol Ferris. She's trying to get to the top of a particular floor. Oh, she's in the communications building, and she instinctively knows where the Star Sapphire gem is, and she's heading to Lois's office because she knows it's up there. She doesn't know who has it. Lois Lane is just a name to her, but she can kind of like a Geiger counter. When she gets closer, she's very strong. There's a couple of guys in the elevator. She immediately throws them out. And again, this is very well drawn artwork here. I got a feeling that the blonde guys probably Carrie Bates, and maybe Kurt Swan. They kind of put themselves in the comics. They would do that every so often. So anyway, one guy tells Carol peace out. Oh, they know that she kicked their asses. Again, very well drawn artwork here. There's nothing wrong with the artwork. The problem is sort of the blandness of the situation. It's just not particularly interesting. I think probably Kurt Swan had an edict where he had to make every panel look very well drawn. And the problem with that is that if you want artwork this clean, this quickly, you got to kind of surrender something. And one of it is sort of definitely creativity, because the panels are not creative in themselves. They're just well drawn. I guess it's the difference between, being neat and being hygienic. So things are neat here, but they're not particularly interesting. Clark, he's going to play his joke. He's going to use the Star Sapphire uniform against Lois. And he finds out where it is. Then he finds out that they have these modern desks. So he disrupts the electronics in the desk to cause basically a malfunction of the desk. So he's ruining corporate property here to play this kind of intrusive prank. All of the Lois's modern desk, it all goes haywire. I guess she has like automated drawers and stuff like that. The drawers open up. Lois doesn't know what's going on. Clark is kind of quiet about it. And Clark kind of, he sees the drawer open with the uniform, and he immediately grabs it. No respect for personal property. And Lois tells her that, saying, hey, that's private property. Clark doesn't care. He's trying to pull that, oh, you must be the Star Sapphire. And Lois is saying, it's crazy, this is none of your business. So it's sort of a role reversal here, where Clark is making the accusations that Lois is a superpowered being. We see Clark taking perverse pleasure in this. We can see it from this weird, creepy smile he has on his face. Very well drawn, but nevertheless, this is kind of a creepy look. Lois again, she's just beautifully drawn here. She grabs the uniform, the Star Sapphire outfit, saying it's not the real thing, it's fake, let me explain. However, the gem levitates, and both of them are surprised by this, and we don't understand. The gem is right in front of Lois's very beautiful face. Again, Kurt Swan knew how to draw beautiful women. And then the gem flies off. Both Clark and Lois are surprised by this. They don't understand what's going on. Clark goes to follow the gem. He doesn't know what's going on, but he senses that it may be bad and it might be better to be Superman during this. However, Lois is watching this entire thing. So it's not like Clark can duck into the broom closet and change. Because Lois is a witness right here. So he sort of has to play things out, and he has to continue following the gem. He's still Superman, but his actions are obviously restricted. Carol Ferris is there. The gem is waiting to go into her hand, and once that happens, she immediately turns into the Star Sapphire. So she sort of does that kind of like Linda Carter regular clothes, Wonder Woman thing. And again, I thought the Star Sapphire was actually a fairly decent character, has a good power set. The costume's not that bad. It does look a bit too much like a masquerade costume, but yeah, she should be a pretty good villain. But again, I think a lot of the chauvinism from the artist, from the writer, I should say, kind of undermined it. Okay, so actually, believe it or not, actually all of that was actually Act 1. We see Act 2, and it says Superman, slave of the Star Sapphire. So Clark is face to face with the Star Sapphire, in her her evil villain costume. She's annoyed by him. So on one hand, Clark is not who she's looking for, but on the other hand, she doesn't really care about this guy either. And she uses her power kind of full force on Clark. Clark is just knocked out here. He realizes that a normal person would have been in real trouble. But Clark keeps on going, and he falls into the elevator shaft. So, the power beam was that powerful. He's kind of going down. He's still down. So he doesn't have his full bearings yet. So he's trying to regain control of himself, trying to kind of stop his momentum. However, the elevator stops the momentum for him, and he crashes into the top of the elevator. This snaps the elevator cable, obviously endangering the people in the elevator. I believe elevators actually do have brakes for this, but I don't know, 1973 technology. There are people in there, very, very well off, very well drawn people. They're worried about being killed. However, Clark is there as Superman, kind of looking more like Spider-Man. I think they actually did try to make Superman a little bit more like Spider-Man, but they didn't really capture what was good about it. Again, I think some of the DC writers viewed Spider-Man when he was in the Bugle as sort of a workplace comedy, and that was not really the case. Or it could have been the editors. So anyway, Clark is trying to figure out what to do. He's holding onto the elevator, and the elevator is packed, so there were a lot of people in there. It almost hit the ground. So they're very lucky that Clark was here. Clark has control of his body now, so he's kind of flying up, and he decides to go back up, but he goes back to his own floor. So on one hand, he's very concerned about the lives of these passengers, but at the same time, he's letting them off on the same floor that the superpower supervillain is on. So he's like, I'm only responsible for you when you're in the elevator. When you're out of the elevator, that's on you. So that's kind of the attitude Clark is taking. Clark is he's kind of repairing the elevator cable, tying it up, just kind of making sure it doesn't cause any more problems. I hope he's going to tell somebody to fix that. However, because the danger's over, and Clark is thinking to himself, how am I going to deal with this supervillain? This is someone that the Green Lantern took care of. I don't really know exactly how to handle it. And he also, I think he figures, he figures that Star Sapphire is delusional, because I think she did mention something about Superman killing Green Lantern. So he's kind of confused about how to deal with her. It turns out that Star Sapphire, she wants to face off with Superman, and she figures that rather than her looking for him, it would just be easier for her to simply cause a ruckus and an inconvenience to the and terrorize the citizens of Metropolis. So she's kind of she's kind of being a one-woman riot crew, and she's just destroying public property here. Superman is changing. He's still in the elevator shaft. He's being really neat with his clothing. I don't really blame him for being a little neat with his clothing, but sometimes you can kind of like, we're just going to write this suit off. Star Sapphire destroys a motorcycle. She destroys a fire hydrant. I mean, she's kind of going low rent here. She's trying to get Superman's attention, but she's kind of doing it in kind of like the laziest way possible. We see Lois, and we see the museum curator. Lois was knocked out unconscious. I don't know why. It says the Star Sapphire did it. I must have missed it. So the museum curator is talking about the stone, saying, "Hey, you stole it." And Lois is saying that the Star Sapphire has the gem, and it must be the source of her power. So the museum curator accused Lois of stealing that, and Lois immediately changed the subject. Said, I don't have it now. That means I didn't steal it before if I don't have it now. Superman, he's seen all the destruction on this one street in Metropolis. It's pretty empty here. And it turns out that Star Sapphire was kind of ambushing Superman. She was in the sewers. She uses her power ring to use the manhole cover to sort of give him a nasty little surprise. So he basically got uppercutted with the manhole cover. Star Sapphire is enjoying this. She's coming out of the sewer, looking as clean and hot as ever, saying that the Green Lantern will be avenged. By the shit on my boots. Oh yeah, that comes in play later. Remember, she was in the sewer. She was in the sewer before Superman kisses those boots. And Star Sapphire, she's having it out with Superman. She's pretty powerful here, so she's getting the better of the two. Superman, he's not showing any pain, but he's definitely being pushed around here. Star Sapphire ambushes Superman again, but she uses this kind of gem to she's using the Star Sapphire gem on Superman. So she's giving the gem to Superman. Apparently it works differently, I guess, on men than women. So when Star Sapphire has the gem, she's in control of it. But when someone else is wearing it, they lose control to the gem. And of course Carol's Varys, Star Sapphire. She's controlling the gem. Superman is basically, his will is gone. So her will is his will. And and she's kind of making Superman do these things. Again, this seems like two kids playing make believe. And she plants a suggestion in Superman's head that no matter how much he wants to get rid of it, he can't do it. And he actually makes Superman prove this. So Superman's trying to take off the gem, but part of him won't allow it. Then she says, Superman, you're not allowed to talk, and his face is kind of like all like kind of like bunched up, like he's biting down on his tongue. He can't move. He's moving around. He looks like someone who desperately wants to laugh but knows he can't. However, plot convenience here. Superman uses super ventriloquism, blah, 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 blah. I can never pronounce that word correctly, but you know what I mean. So he throws his voice, and he catches Lois. It says, okay, he can't talk, but, the only way you can throw your voice is by talking. So this is just a badly written story. If you were reading Marvel, why would you read this? To be honest, Lois sees Superman. She's angry at Superman for losing this fight, because to Lois it looks like Superman's just being a bottom, and he's just submitting to her. Then he does the ultimate bottom move. She says, "Kiss my boots," the ones that were, a few minutes ago in the sewer. Yeah, you can kiss those boots. I guess someone was working out some kinks. However, it's only this one panel here. So Superman does it. He kisses the boots. So this is, I guess they kind of didn't want to push it with the comic code. Star Sapphire, she's being really sadistic to Superman. Superman's basically like a 5-year-old kid being pushed around by an older sister. And she says, "Okay, you've proven enough to me. You've humiliated yourself, and you've accepted my worship." And this is definitely S&M stuff. And then Star Sapphire wants Superman to destroy the Galaxy building. This is the Galaxy Media building, and there's a bunch of people in it. And Superman is upset about this, but he's not horribly upset. So Star Sapphire asked him to destroy this building that still has hundreds, if not thousands, of employees in it, causing their deaths. Superman is mildly annoyed that he has to do this. And again, this is just really bad writing here. And he realizes that he's going to be a mass murderer. He can't stop it. However, Superman sees the image of another Star Sapphire, and what it turns out to be Lois in that replica costume from earlier. So Superman is seeing two Star Sapphires. So Lois is hoping that Superman's mind will not figure out which one is the fake, which one is the real one, because he's compelled to follow her orders explicitly without question. But if he doesn't know which one is the real Star Sapphire, then technically he can kind of listen to both of them. And obviously he's going to listen to the Lois one more. However, Star Sapphire sees that someone is impersonating her, and she orders Superman to kill this person. However, Lois stops that. Superman's confused. Again, he doesn't know which one is which. He's being convenient about this. He could figure it out, but he's like, you know what? It helps me if I don't ask questions. And so Lois figures out a way to free Superman, but she needs Star Sapphire's cooperation. She's obviously not going to give it willingly, so she has to kind of trick her into cooperating. So Lois, as Star Sapphire, orders Superman to fly directly up and leave. Then Star Sapphire orders Superman to come back, and which means that Superman has to do a U-turn. And because Superman's head is now down and Superman's momentum is down, the necklace slips off Superman's neck. So gravity and Lois's sneakiness sort of assisted here. The gem is no longer on Superman's person. It is heading for the Star Sapphire, so it's still a danger, but it's not controlling Superman. Star Sapphire grabs the gem and says, "Hey, you won this round, but I'll be back for the next." And again, it kind of feels like a couple of kids playing imaginary games. Oh, now I can transport now. And Lois is there saying that, hey, we saved the day. Superman, kind of being a male chauvinist douchebag, says, "Well, if it isn't my so-called female ally, I mean, seriously, Superman." Even though I know this is more Carrie Bates. Well, it turns out Lois looks really good in this outfit, by the way. It kind of fills Superman in. However, Lois tells Superman, "Hey, the stuff I shared with you, don't tell Clark." Kind of, Superman does this little wink to the audience. Again, this is Marvel 1963, and Superman and Lois is saying, I don't need Clark making fun of me, and saying that I'm Star Sapphire. Clark's like okay with this. Carol Ferris left. She blinked out. I think she went back to Coastal City, or she just went a few blocks away. Oh, she's still in Metropolis. She doesn't really remember what's going on. Yeah, the influence that the gem had on her, it waned, and she went back to being Carol Ferris. How convenient. There's a headline about the Green Lantern. Carol's like, he saved the world. That's nice. And that's the end of this story. Thank God. It tells us the next, coming up for Superman, is the skyscraper that screamed for its life. I remember that being a somewhat decent issue, much better than this garbage. So anyway, this terrible issue is over with. In the letters page, they're talking about issue number 257, something called the War Horn. It's the same creative team. I think people found the Superman story okay, but I think they liked the Green Lantern story better. They all like it reads like people preferred the B story, but they said the A story was okay. It's produced. This person likes Carrie Bates for some reason. They seem to like the Green Lantern story more though. So that's what was going on with Superman readers at the time. This comic was still outselling Spider-Man though, but the numbers were definitely going in Marvel's way. And that's really about it. I'm not going to look at the ads. So that is my walkthrough of Superman 251. And I guess as the nostalgia critic would say, I read it so you don't have to. Oof. So this is my review of this comic, and I hope to have more up soon. Bye.